Alright, Lantis, so if you've been playing Bleach or Resident over the last day, you should know by now that team building is very, very important. Because the way Bleach or Resident does work is that it's not just a single character game. You can build teams of 3, and each slot is vital for you to clear content as fast as possible and as easy as possible. So with that in mind, we are going to go through all the best teams that you can build right now in Bleach or Resident. So if you do have a favorite character, you do know what characters to build them around. So first up, let's talk about the Slash type team. This one is fairly simple, and it's a team that I've been talking about a lot since the release over the last 2 or so days. We have Bankai, Ichigo, Byakuya, and also Kisuke. Now, you're going to see Kisuke be brought up a lot because he's pretty much the best support in the game, and he can pretty much fit in every single team. The way you want to build your team, right, is you want a sub-DPS, you want a DPS, and you want a support character. Fortunately, these 3 characters fill each slot. Ichigo is going to be your main DPS character, Byakuya is going to be your sub-DPS, also the tactical unit, more on that later, and then Kisuke is going to be the support. So first up, let's have a look at Ichigo. The way you want to use this character in the best possible team in the game is more so in regards to the basic attack, but there's actually kind of a lot going on with him. So what you'll see here is that Ichigo strikes 5 times, deals damage. However, if you stop attacking after the 3rd strike, Ichigo will charge briefly. When a glow appears, tap the basic attack again to release a special attack. And the special attack is this particular attack. And this attack can actually get better once you do unlock the character's weapon and also core stamp. But pretty much a lot of time throughout the gameplay, you are going to be most of the time doing the special attack. And you're going to be doing that a lot until you can build the ultimate. Once you unlock the ultimate, you get to use his Getuka Tensho twice in a row, but every time you land the Getuka Tensho, you get a free use on his special attack. So you get to basically do 4 attacks back to back. Of course, while you're in your holofied state for 10 seconds, once that all does run out, you then get to use your ultimate, which is capable of doing a lot of damage. So of course, to make Ichigo better, you are then going to want to have Kisuke, and realistically, the reason why we are using Kisuke is due to his passive effect. So Kisuke's passive, every time this character uses a special attack, technique, ultimate, or counter attack, he gives the team 1 stack of Reishi analysis. What this does do is that for 15 seconds, he will provide a 10% attack boost. This can stack up to 3 times. It can get higher if you unlock the character's weapon stamp and also core stamp. And if you actually build the character with the recommended, stamp set, you can actually give your team basically a 70% attack boost, which is absolutely crazy for 15 seconds. And this is kind of why you're going to see Kisuke brought up a lot, and probably the last time we speak about him for the most part, at least individually, because this 70% attack boost is pretty much universal for every team, so every team is going to be using Kisuke for that reason alone. So as stated here, every attack that the character does do is going to be giving your team a 30, 60, 70% attack boost, depending on how far you are into the game. For the most part, right now, for most of us, it's 30%, but as you progress, you will be building that up to 60 and then 70%. Also worth mentioning too, when you do use your ultimate, you will give your entire team a 20% crit damage boost, which again is really, really good. So just general buffs that you are seeing with Kisuke, that is what he is using every single team. Then, of course, after that, we have Byakuya. He is going to be our support unit. And the main reason we are going to be using him is for his battlefield skill, which he does provide a 30% slash damage to every character in the team. Fortunately, Kisuke, Byakuya himself, and most importantly, Ichigo are slash type characters, so we are getting that 30% damage boost. That realistically is the main reason why we are going to use him, but this skill too is also just really good for providing extra damage alongside Ichigo dealing damage himself. But you get to use his battlefield skill a lot with Ichigo because Ichigo can spam attacks, especially when he does Holofire. And if you do get to use his battlefield skill multiple times, the final hit does allow Byakuya to come onto the field and deal the final strike of his basic attack. And that's important to note because with Byakuya, when you do use him, you always want to make sure you are at least using your ultimate or basic attack because it does reduce their slash resistance by 22%, overall just giving you more damage. Other than that, everything about Byakuya is mostly just to increase his damage output, especially in regards to the battlefield skill. This character is all about battlefield damage. So when it comes to using the slash team, the main rotation that I personally like to do is start off with Byakuya. Byakuya's battlefield skill will not activate until you use his first technique. The technique animation itself is long because the idea is that you get to switch into another character. It's actually encouraged. So once you do use his first technique, you will then switch into Kisuke, where Kisuke will then use his technique and 2 special attacks to give you that full 30% attack boost. Once that is done, you then switch into your main DPS, which is Ichigo, and then use his technique, which is followed up by a slash attack. The best part about Byakuya and Ichigo being used together is that Ichigo can pretty much at all times activate his slash attack by again doing his free attack combo and then slightly delaying that fourth attack to do the slash attack that he does do. Because every time a special attack or a technique is used, Byakuya's battlefield skill does activate, where you then get free damage, lowering their slash resistance, and also lowering Byakuya's cooldown. It does have quite the long cooldown. So even with that long cooldown, with this particular rotation, you're able to switch into Byakuya and have his technique ready after like 2 to 3 seconds. Of course, with that, you also want to do all this without taking damage and paying attention to the enemy's attack pattern, taking advantage of anytime you can use a counterattack. Now, if Ikaku is able to stay alive long enough, we can demonstrate how crazy the team can get, because once you do activate Ichigo's holification form, then you start to do even more damage and spam even more attacks and constantly go back between Ichigo and also Byakuya. Does take a bit of learning to get used to, but this team does crazy damage with the way they do work together. If you are looking to take advantage of Ikaku and also Kaname, you are then going to want to focus on a Frost type team. So very similar concept. Support is from Kisuke. Kisuke throws into any team. Ikaku is going to be our main DPS, and then Kaname is going to be our sub DPS. In a way, can be a main DPS with his bleeds. But with Kaname on the team, we are again getting that 30% Frost damage. Important things to note with this particular team, if you are using Ikaku and also Kaname, at least with the way that Ikaku does work, he actually works better when it isn't just a singular boss fight. As you'll see here, the more enemies that are around him, the more damage he does get. And also, as long as he can defeat an enemy every 8 seconds, he does deal 22% more damage. But he also can inflict wound, which in this case we're going to call bleeds, which is how we are going to take advantage of Kaname. So with this particular team, I like to start off using Kisuke. Kisuke, you want to make sure you apply your buffs straight away, so you will want to use his technique and then also his 2 special attacks. Once you do that, you're then going to mainly stay on Ikaku. You're going to stick on Ikaku while the buffs are active and keep using his basic attack to apply wounds or bleeds until Kaname's battlefield skill is ready. Once Kaname's battlefield skill is ready, you then use it and instantly use his technique straight away. His battlefield skill and technique is pretty much the same attack. It applies wounds. Pretty much has the exact same animation too. And once that's done, you pretty much come off of Kaname. You don't need to stay on him all too long. He's done his job as the sub DPS. And you then repeat the rotation. You go back to Kisuke, use his buffs, stick onto Ikaku. Make sure when you are using Ikaku and his spiritual pressure is max, you do his special attack, which is holding down the basic button, and then following up with another combo attack. With this particular team, we couldn't really demonstrate the full power of it, because most of the damage from this team does come from the fact that Kaname can activate his Bankai, where he gets a free use of his technique and an additional use of his battlefield skill. So a lot of the damage from this team comes from the Kaname Bankai, but with this particular quest, we killed a bit too fast. And then once more, the best strike team that you can use, of course, is using a non-strike character, in this case, Kisuke. Technically, you can use Nemu, I just don't like to. I think Kisuke's damage buffs are better, so definitely stick to using Kisuke, Sergeant, and also Yoruichi if you are going for a strike-focused team. So the reason why we are going to use a character like Sergeant is one, for his battlefield skill, giving us 30% more strike damage. That's going to be really good for our main DPS, that of course being Yoruichi. And the second reason we are using Sergeant is for the technique skill that he does have. So when you do use this skill, you do give a shield, a 15-second shield to your team, provide some additional survivability. However, if you do look at his passive, any ally that is shielded by Sergeant's shield gets a 50% crit rate increase. We also, of course, do have the battlefield attack itself, which allows us to do a bit more damage, but we're not really here to like focus on Sergeant as a character. He's really just here for that 30% team boost on the battlefield skill, and also the passive where he can give us critical rate increase. Yoruichi, though, is going to be our main damage dealer, as she is a full assault unit. And with Yoruichi, you just want to spam all your attacks, more so your technique, your special attack when you can. But the main thing to keep in mind with Yoruichi, the way she does work, is that she does want to dodge enemies' attacks, which is actually really cool. It's kind of in line with Yoruichi as a character. Once you do dodge an attack, you do gain 20% spiritual pressure, and are able to perform a free special attack. If you follow that up with a basic attack once more, you then do the final hit of her attack string, which is really cool. So when it comes to the Yoruichi team, we are starting off with Sergeant. Now, when it comes to Sergeant's battlefield skill, you can use it a few times before he actually switches into him. But I believe after it does get over the number 5 count, once you do use the battlefield skill, it will switch into Sergeant. If you do want to include Sergeant into the rotation, you can do that a few times. I believe after 2 uses of his technique skill, which you do again while you use straight away, you can activate his Bankai, where you then can deal most damage. But this particular rotation really didn't take advantage of Sajin's invincibility Bankai, which we didn't really need right now. Once you apply the bust with Kisuke, apply the shield with Sajin, you pretty much stay onto Yoruichi, dodging anytime you can, so you can get that additional attack. Use your technique skill when you can. Keep in mind when you do use it, at least up against this particular Kaku, who's a very fast character, so he can actually get out of the AoE of it. And whenever your special attack is ready, make sure you do use that. This definitely wasn't the cleanest run of their rotation, but I'm still kind of new to using the rotation because I've been more accustomed to using the Frost team and also Slash team. But that's pretty much the general idea with the Strike team. So those are pretty much the best teams that you can use right now in Bleach Rebirth for Souls, with fun enough Kisuke being used in all of them, which is why everyone is saying, myself included, Kisuke is one of the best characters to have. The best character to have other than Ichigo, as he is a limited time character. I would say the Slash team is definitely the best of the bunch, with a lot of potential in the Frost Bleed team, with Kaname and also Ikaku when up against boss content. The weakest is definitely the Yoruichi and also Sergeant team, as they don't really flow well together, but it's still a decently good team, a fun team too at that to use nonetheless. There's no real good Spirit team that you can use right now because they don't really exist. But I guess it would probably look something like this for the time being until Toshiro does release in 2 weeks' time. Either way, let me know what team you're trying to strive for. What team are you trying to recreate for your experience? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.